Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's Daryl here. It is 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I want to talk to the Trump supporters out there. I've been going through my comment section. Let me bring up a couple things. Let me talk to you about Colin Powell, lifelong Republican, general, okay? He's worked with 4 different presidents. And what has he said recently about Donald Trump? Lifelong Republican. He will in no way, shape, or form vote for this liar. Colin Powell came right out and called Donald Trump a continual liar. This guy is a retired general, lifelong Republican. What's that tell? What does that tell you guys? Another thing I want to talk about briefly is I was looking into this. All started with me seeing another My Pillow commercial. And of course, he's got all these white middle-aged men on there talking about his pillow. Every single one, white face, middle-aged, okay? And one guy says, I only buy American. They're better products. Hey, I love America. Don't get me wrong, but I started to think about that. And I started to think about Donald Trump's tariffs. I started thinking about our iPhones, Apple and Samsung, Sony, all that. So I started reading up into that. And why about Trump's tariffs and how people say that he's an economic genius, right? He's, so good with money. He doesn't even really understand the economics of the tariffs he's imposing. I'll leave a couple links down below. I was looking at the engineering sites as to why our phones are put together in China. And then it goes on to explain how Trump talks about the trade deficit. This is something I learned today. When these iPhones come in from China, a lot of the parts are made in America, but they're assembled in China, okay? And when they come in from China, the trade deficit, it's counted by, each phone is counted like for $230, the basic cost that China charges to them coming in the country. But that's the total cost of the parts that we sent over to China. It's not a realistic reflection of what China is profiting. It's not a real reflection of the actual trade imbalance at all. If you just look at what China's making on each phone, it's $8 or $9. So in this trade deficit that Trump's talking about, every single iPhone coming in from China is counted as another $230 towards the trade deficit to benefit China. And in reality, China's only making $8 or $9 on each one of those phones. It's not realistic. When Trump talks, goes on and on about all this stuff about China burying us with this economics and everything, it's not realistic. Another point I wanted to make, I was reading up more on this, why these phones are assembled there. And it's a particular skill set that's been developed in China over decades. The craftsmanship with the very small electronics. And the supply chain and everything they have in place there already in China. Trump has tweeted before and gotten on Apple and, specifically Apple, because Apple complained about these tariffs we're talking about increasing the cost of every cell phone from $30 to $100 a piece for the American consumer, just to support Trump's ridiculous trade war. So Trump tweets, well, start building them factories in America. Let's start making them in America. And I started reading up about the actual engineering, the supply chain, and what that would entail. It wouldn't just be about building a factory and hiring people and putting it in there. It's not that simple. I'll show you, I'll leave the link down below. It would be starting completely from scratch, doing something that America has never done with this craftsman-like work on these very small electronic components. The way China has got this down to a science now, literally a science. They have a mix of computer computer sciences, robotics, and this craftsmanship with working with very small electronic parts there, that they do this particularly well, and considering for a relatively good cost. And this is why it is just so much more efficient. If we were to build these factories in America, it would take an investment of like hundreds of billions of dollars to start building these factories, and it would take years to it's not just as simple as putting up making a big factory and putting people in it. We're talking about all sorts of computer science, robotics, and the supply chain, and all this other stuff, and the craftsmanship that the Chinese people and Taiwanese people have honed over this period of time. That's just made them especially efficient at doing this work. So yeah, we could do it, but it's going to take years and billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. And it's interesting too on what constitutes made in America. A lot of times, a lot of parts are made here and they're assembled somewhere else because of this particular aspect. So there's confusion amongst to what exactly made in America means sometimes too. I know I wandered off subject here, but these are a couple things I wanted to talk about. Both Colin Powell and Trump's trade war and his supposed economic genius. They actually show, in one of the links I give you guys, they show the tweet that Trump put out. Just build these, start building, start making these factories, talking to Apple. And it's clear this man doesn't, you guys say he's an economic genius, and he doesn't understand what I just understood. It took me 20 minutes to understand this morning. And our economic genius of a president doesn't get it. Check out the link and look into it more yourselves. Trump's no economic genius. Really, all he's really good at is manipulation and bullying tactics and lying, bravado, bluster, throwing the bullshit. Really, that's all he's good at. Just some thoughts. I know I skipped around a little bit. I want to talk more about Colin Powell, but just some thoughts this morning. You guys have a good Tuesday.